I'm back. I'm Frankie, your local Stockholm entrepreneur, and I'm about to teach you a little bit about the journey of an entrepreneur. I've been thinking about doing this video because recently I have been doing a few different talks at universities, at an MBA class. Upon doing so, you do a lot of reflection. So I wanted today to share with you a little bit about my entrepreneurial journey. So first, as an entrepreneur, you're probably going to be confused, all right? So you're going to be questioning. One of the main things you need to consider is what kind of value can you provide? How do you create that value? You usually would have to solve a problem. What problems do you want to solve is where the confusion comes in. And you want to make sure that you're being intentional about this part of the process, because if you're not, then you probably will develop a product that no one will want to buy. Instead, you want to be able to question, what is it that I want to develop? And then go from that question to asking, who would potentially buy that thing? These people can be your neighbors, they can be your friends, your colleagues, your wife, your husband. And as you go by your day, you'll start to hear all these problems if you are asking the right questions. You can ask people, what pains you? What is upsetting you? What is annoying you? And you need to be a great listener. This is going to be key. In design thinking, we call this the empathy stage. Empathizing with people's problems. And then from there, you extract problems that could potentially lead to a business idea. So you have to go and find out what problems people are actually willing even to pay money for. Number two, defining the problem. So you're hearing all these problems, but it's really important to get to the key, the idea of why people are struggling with this specific pain point that they're mentioning to you. And that is all about defining what the problem is. People can be expressing a specific problem or a pain point, but that might be the actual root cause of the challenge. So you need to decide from what you're hearing, what insights are you supposed to keep? What insights are going to lead to valuable discoveries, so then you can then start defining your ideas and generating ideas for a prototype, for a solution, for a business. So how do you define the problem? We typically use a POV. A POV is a point of view. And in this POV, you're going to talk about the people that you met, and you're going to try to understand them a little bit better by jotting down ideas of the insights you gathered from what they told you. I like to use this framework from design thinking. We met, we were amazed to realize, how might we? So from all of those conversations that you just had, from all of the insights that you could have gathered by looking for the patterns in these conversations, in these pain points. So if the person that you want to showcase or talk about, the customer persona, is the one that you interviewed and has expressed a specific interest, or has somehow summarized a few different pain points that other people are also expressing, then you can use them as a persona. You can say, we met Sally, a 46-year-old stay-at-home mom. We were amazed to realize that she feels like she doesn't have enough time for herself and to build friendships outside of her duties as a mom. How might we re-engage Sally back into community and social life now that she's a stay-at-home mom? And this is defining this problem, the problem of Sally. We went from empathy, which is a divergent way of thinking, you're opening up to the options, to then we went and we tried to define, and then now we arrived at a POV. So that's this point here, where we feel like we have some understanding of the challenges facing this user, facing this persona. And with this POV, we are now going to ask the how might we questions. And we're going to be asking that question, how might we address this challenge that we have just realized happens to be facing Sally? And you're going to do that by, once again, diverging your mind. So we went divergent, convergent, then we go and diverge again our thinking, opening up the possibility. Let's not close ourselves in a box yet. We are now generating ideas. And these ideas are not yet solutions. They're just ideas. Ideas are nothing until you put them into action. So ideas. These ideas you're going to generate, quantity over quality is what matters. Quantity over quality. I will say it again. Generate as many ideas as you can think of. Don't be pre-filtering already, all right? Pre-filtering does nothing for you. Pre-filtering, what it will do is hinder your chances of finding something occasionally and rarely really good in the midst of what you would consider otherwise a really bad idea. So how do you have these ideas? There's many different methods to do this. I will give you a few examples. One is you silently brainstorm. Just writing, jotting things down on a paper, on a Figma board, on a Miro board. All of these have post-its, digital post-its. Just doing one idea per post-it and ideating as much as you can within 10 minutes. And for some of you who are the most creative, this will be easier than others. So it helps if you have a team of people or a group of people that want to do this with you. Because the more people, and especially the more diverse the group, the more beautiful and ingenious ideas you can generate together. Quantity over quality in the stage. We're going divergent. This means we're going to broaden our horizons a little bit again. So from these ideas that you're going to be drafting, you'll start to realize that you can actually then build on them. So that's the second point of idea generation. You can add a yes and statement. Pass the post-its around to your colleagues or your friends or your family, or even to the previous users, and ask them, what do you think about this idea? How can you add to it? How can you build on top of this? That's another strategy. If you'd like to hear more strategies about idea generation, I can make another video about this. After the ideas, finally, we start to have some comprehension of what can be a potential solution for the original how might we, or the original question of the problem. But the ideas are supposed to be very wide, very broad, and some of them even wild ideas. Okay, just to give you an example of a wild idea. We were once debating in our team, and we were thinking about a solution to talking about knowledge that relates to Stockholm City. And we thought, what if we launch a game show? What if we go on national TV and we launch a game show with trivia about Stockholm? Is that feasible? Does that sound like it would be feasible to you for someone who doesn't have any contacts in the industry, in the TV industry? Does it sound feasible to go out of our way to go and pitch to a TV network? Maybe not. None of that sounds feasible. It was supposed to be a wild idea. How can we gain inspiration from wild ideas? They help us to bridge the gap here into thinking more broadly about issues and thinking more creatively, more imaginatively about these issues. So that is why we say every idea is a good idea, as long as you put it on paper and it's there for you to gain inspiration from. Usually I like to leave some time in between idea generation and then looking for solutions within those ideas. Because sometimes we come back to the table and we realize, oh, I missed this idea. I didn't give it as much relevance or importance, but now that I've been thinking, maybe overnight, I've been thinking a lot about this issue and about the ideas we generated. I think that might be something. I think there might be something there. So if you can, leave some time between ideating and then going into prototyping. So prototyping is about making things concrete, right? So you're now taking the abstract idea, the idea that came from your head, into something very real, something very graspable. Choose 2 or 3 very simple ideas that you can develop to address the main POV, the main problem, the main statements. And you go and you try to develop them with some prototypes that you can then use to test on either the original user or on similar customer persona users. So how do you do prototypes? I'm going to give you a few examples. We had an ideation session last week at our company, and we were given the challenge of prototyping this new experience we're developing. It's an experience related to innovations, inventions, and the sort of ingenuity mindset that a lot of Swedish companies and startup culture here in Stockholm has. But when we were thinking about prototyping, we're like, oh, how can we make this very graspable, very feasible, talking about innovations? And what we did is we brought an innovation to the team. So I have one here to give you an example. So I don't know if you guys know this, but these cloths, cleaning cloths in the kitchen, they're actually a Swedish invention. And I got to try it out as a prototype. And then because we are about the experiential aspect of this prototype, we also made other people try them. We made them touch, smell, hold it up, hold it down, make it interact with the prototype. And then we asked these test users, people that we were trying in our team and also outside, we asked them, how does it feel? What does it make you think about? What do you think it's made of? When do you think it was invented? So we were trying to get people to interact with this and get us some real life interaction and engagement to understand a bit better how does the ultimate user of what we want this prototype to be for, how does the ultimate user react and interact with the prototype? Are they giving us the same reactions we expected? Are they giving us feedback? Oh, maybe I wouldn't give them an actual physical thing. Maybe it's best to just hold it up. That way everybody can see it. Rather than passing it around, people get distracted. So these are all good insights. And that leads us from prototyping to testing. Testing is essential. What ends up happening a lot of times is you have a product development process that ends with something ready to launch, a beta test or some type of better product. But as soon as you launch, maybe you don't receive as much test users as you'd wish. So then you actually don't get a lot of feedback. This is why it's key not to invest a lot of time in developing a product that you assume you understand the user of that product better than you do. The reason why we do several prototypes, so we don't just invest in one idea, and by prototyping in a very simple way, be it with already something existing that's very cheaply to acquire, be it with paper, you can do a paper prototype, you can do a digital prototype, for example, for an app. So you don't need to have a lot of money for any of this. By the way, this whole process now, it was just free. You know what it took from you? Time. All right, so if you're saying, I cannot be an entrepreneur because I don't have any money, I'm sorry to tell you, I did this whole thing for free. Heck, I did it for free right now. But the importance of prototyping is that you do it fast and you don't get attached to the beauty of your prototype. So you don't want to be developing an app for 7 months and all of a sudden then testing it, sending it out into the world for everybody to tell you how much it sucks, or worse yet, no one will use it. Why will no one use it? Because it maybe didn't address the original problem of the user. So what is it about prototyping that you should know, and about testing specifically? You need to prototype fast so you can fail fast. Fast means cheap. Cheap means you don't waste as much time, resources, or any other form of capital. So we go from prototyping to testing, and the test is where you have to fail or you will succeed. Perhaps people will give you really positive feedback. Perhaps you have already, on your first iteration, resolved all of the customer's pain points. But most likely, that won't be the case, okay? And I'll tell you why. Because if you're failing fast, you probably have missed something. And that's part of the speed aspect. So you also can kill your darlings early. You'll be able to iterate over this whole process. The testing phase will then inform how many times you have to go through this loop again. And this we call the double diamond of design thinking. So from testing, we get that feedback. That feedback will inform what happens next. So either you're going to go back to failing fast, maybe you have to redo your prototype because the prototype was not effective. Or maybe you're going to get feedback like, oh, the problem is not the prototype. The problem is not a good solution, maybe, or not a very effective solution. So then you go back to ideation. Or maybe they're going to tell you, actually, this is a cool prototype, but it doesn't solve my original problem. Are you sure you find the problem the right way? It's your job to find out. So then you actually design something that people will want to buy. And you can either go back to the POV to learn where did we go wrong? Where did we misunderstand what the problem was? Or you can even go back all the way to the beginning. Maybe you'll realize this is actually a problem, or in this case, a solution that I've developed for a problem that I cannot address because people are not satisfied. And maybe there's no solution, no easy one, at least not profitable one, or people are not willing to pay for it. Maybe that's the feedback they'll give you. So instead you go back to the beginning, and this is frustrating. And this is supposed to be frustrating. I tell my team all the time, if you're not frustrated 1/3 of the time, pursuing your goals, your dreams, your entrepreneurial journey, then you're not doing it half right. But at some point you need to launch. Launch as in you actually are going to start charging people or asking them to be free users at first. And these people, by the time you do get them to ask for money, by that point, they would have already known you. They're invested in this process. They know you have listened to them time and time again, complain about their problems. And now because they're invested, they probably will become your early adopters. They'll become the first customers. Now these users, where do you find them? You can go back to the original pool, which is ideal. So you can actually test on the original problems that people were stating. But you can also go to your family, your friends, your peers, the bus drivers. Tell everybody about your business. And if you do that, that's the earliest form of marketing you will really have to go off of. So in testing, the key is to listen again. By the way, these beans are supposed to be yours, okay? Don't judge me on my drawing skills. But if you're listening to what people are telling you, and you actually don't take things personally, you do take it to heart that people are incentivized. They feel like you listen to their problems. They want to help you. But if the things you develop are not going to help them, they need to be honest about this. And you need to be prepared for their honesty. You cannot be defensive. Again, kill your darlings, fail fast. And listening is such an important part of being a business owner, being an entrepreneur. You need to be able to listen, and it's such an understated skill. If you listen to your customers, I guarantee you, you can make money. You can sell something they actually will want to buy, not because of marketing, but because of the intrinsic or extrinsic value that your product or service provides. And how do you listen? There's many different structures, but I'm going to teach you one tool from design thinking. We have the feedback grid, the holy grail of everything I've done in my business. Usually you write down the feedback based on 4 quadrants. This is the feedback grid. There's many different ways of collecting feedback. I just think this is the most intuitive, easiest to remember, and you can always draw a cross on any paper. So whatever you have with you to make notes, it's easy.
I'm back just with a quick break there because I would like to plug in my own journal. If you'd like to get organized, structured with your day as an entrepreneur, especially if you're a female entrepreneur like me and you're into journaling, thoughtful questions about what got you on this journey to begin with. If you like to keep yourself organized with planners, I have all of that in this journal. And on top of that, specifically at this point in the video, I'm talking about a feedback grid, and that feedback grid so happens to also be inside of the journal. So if you want to get yourself organized, get your entrepreneurial journey on the way, make sure you're purchasing down below in the link through Amazon. It should be able to be delivered everywhere in the world. Thank you everybody for supporting my work.
The first quadrant here is the plus sign. The plus sign is for what you did well, what your product, your solution, your prototype did really well. People are going to tell you often, first, they will focus on what you need to change, what needs improvement. This didn't work so well. I don't like this feature. I don't like the way you designed this, the way you put this feature over here. I don't like the colors. I think that's, people focus on details a lot. What you want to be hearing or asking more actively of is, what did you do well? Don't ask yes or no questions, but you can ask, how do you think this addresses your original issue? If you're testing on the original user, how do you believe this can help you? And if you don't want to ask any questions, you can start with observation. How are they using it? Are they holding it the way you intended? Are they clicking through the funnel the way you intended them to? Do they actually follow the customer journey that you planned out? Are they using it for the purpose that they themselves said that they needed it for? Or are they using it for new purposes, new opportunities that you are not even aware your product could also do? Answering those questions will give you your pluses. And the pluses are the things that you did well. It's something you need to keep. And people often don't focus on that. We have a negativity bias. So you need to ask that person you're testing on, the test user, what do you like about it? What would you be upset about if we took away? Knowing what does well often enough will save your product. Then we have the questions. We already talked a little bit about the area of improvement. I think those are just key. So you want to make sure that you're passing these, improving upon them so they end up in the plus. And next time around, when you go and you test again and you use the feedback grid, you can ask the user, do you remember what you mentioned to me last time? What were some of the pain points that you mentioned that you didn't like so much about my prototype? Do you feel like we have addressed them? How do you think we have addressed them? So they know you are rewarding them for their feedback, their time, the time that they gave you to address these issues and also mention them to you. Then we have questions. Questions is things that came up, be it as an observer or as a note taker. You realize that the user perhaps didn't really know how to open up the instructions manual, didn't know how to use that button, didn't know how to hold something. And if none of this is intuitive, that's something you need to fix, right? So questions are questions that you as an observer or as a note taker have about why do they handle it that way. But also can be questions that the person asked. Maybe they're like, oh, is this made of plastic? And you're like, well, why are they asking me that? But maybe that's a question you want to write there. People were confused about something. Points of confusion are also points of improvement. You can always work them out. Or if they're not points of improvement, they're points of marketing. Knowing how to market your solution is key, right, to eventually selling it. So if the person is asking you, why does it look blue? Why did you decide on blue? Maybe you should have an answer for that. And writing down those questions is key. Then we have the exclamation point. This is for ideas, and this is what I love. When people do get invested in what you're trying to deliver, and you're telling them, hey, you know, I think I figured it out. I have a solution for you. Then they probably will be so happy that you did, that when they're noticing problems, okay, things that you need to improve, they will also point out solutions. They're like, you know what? I don't really like this feature, but here's how you can do it better. Or I would really like, what if you add this here? What if you add this feature? And they're telling you all these ideas for free. This is not a design prototyper that you need to pay. But to get those suggestions, you really need to have the forethought of asking your original user or the users that you have in mind for your product. Ask them, what are your thoughts? If you're not doing user testing, you're probably not going to have a good product. Or you're going to end up with a product that you'll have to spend a lot of marketing dollars to actually fund and promote and go off into the market with. Hopefully, you will have an output that includes a product, a solution, a prototype that is a working prototype. And from that prototype, you can get a minimum viable product. And you know what a minimal viable product could be? A minimum viable business. If all these people have been involved during this double diamond design thinking process of going from what are the problems, what are the actual redefined challenges, what are some of the ideas and solutions we can offer to these customers, then you would have enough people to be your early adopters, to be the people that would then pay for that service because you've talked to them, they've invested in you. And most people can find 20 to 50 people. Think about anybody you know. You probably have gone through 20 to 50 people through your schooling life, your adult life, your previous jobs life. And if you don't have any, you can just go online. Gosh, we live in this age where anybody on social media is just willing to be distracted a little bit longer by filling out a survey or, you know, answering some input. The minimum viable product, though, cannot become a minimum viable business without these early adopters. But also it cannot become a minimum viable business if you don't have a team of people to then run it with. It's really difficult. I am not one of those entrepreneurs that promotes solopreneurship. I want you guys to have support. I myself had 5 co-founders when I started my last business. If you want to go from a minimal viable product to a minimal viable business, you need other people, and that is key. If you want to learn more about business models, I can tell you more about that next time, but I think this video is going to be long enough. If you enjoyed this content, please make sure you subscribe so that, I try to reach more entrepreneurs. This is really my goal. I go into entrepreneurship for impact, and so far I've been able to do that, but now I want to do a one-to-many, not just one-to-one coaching, and I really want to be able to reach more entrepreneurs like you guys. So please, if you enjoy this content, if you found it useful for creating value for people in the world, please make sure you share it with your friends and subscribe. All right, so I will see you on the next one. Hopefully more videos are coming out. We have a video editor, my friend Kika, and she's amazingly talented, and I'm sure she's going to be outputting a lot of this content pretty soon. Thank you for watching and for listening, and make sure you go out there and follow your dreams. Hi everyone. Okay, that was not part of the plan. That was not part of the plan. Oh, I'm just gonna get rid of all of this. Oh, yeah.